All right, if you could believe it or not, Real Housewives, a reality show on Bravo TV 20 years ago, celebrating this massive 20-year anniversary, teaming up some of the cast members from all across the franchise. You know, you got Porsha, Luann, Teresa, Vicki, Gizelle, Kyle, and also Lisa. Am I missing somebody? It's a good cast for sure. And celebrating reality TV is a funny thing because it's like, it's just reality TV. But to do a show for 20 seasons is a big deal. And I just wanted to give my first initial reaction of what I think this show is. The Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip 20th season. It's a big, big deal. And the star of the show, as you know, is Vicki Gunvalson. She is the star because she's the original. I'm just kidding. She is not the star of the show. She is drowning compared to the other cast members. And it really goes to show, just because you are the original and you are the first, something about her getting her bearings back with filming reality TV amongst all these quote unquote all-stars, it's starting to show through. And I just wanted to do my initial reactions, and it is funny to make a joke. Yes, Vicki is the star. She's the original, but I don't think she's the star. To be honest, Heather from OC would have been better, or Tamara from OC would have been better. But you cannot knock the fact that Vicki was on the original season, and without the excitement of the original season working and getting ratings, there wouldn't be a New York, there wouldn't be an Atlanta, there wouldn't be a New Jersey, Potomac, Salt Lake City, Rhode Island, so on and so forth. And you know, I always miss the DC season. I cannot believe Larsa is not on the show. That's just crazy to me. And then Dallas was another franchise. I mean, there's just been so many. Dubai. It's a really good show, but here are the questions. Who is the star of the show, number one? And number two, is it actually a good show, or is it just a lot of bells and whistles? Celebrating 20 years of the Real Housewives franchise, Bravo TV's hit reality show. All right, so now that we got that out the way, yes, Vicki Gunvalson, though she's the first, she is not the star. The star of the show probably will be the power that Kyle always holds. I've always said that Kyle is one of my least favorite within the entire all of the Real Housewives. I've been saying that since her season 1, episode 1, frame 1. If you were asking me all those seasons ago, she wouldn't even got a second season. But when it comes to a 20th year celebration, the one thing I gotta say that I was more shocked about is that she seems to be a little more fun. This level of success, and when I say success, it's the all-stars, and obviously each cast member has to feel a certain way. You know, it is just a show. No one's doing anything amazing. They're just, you know, filming reality TV, having a little fun, making money. But to be chosen to represent your city, you know, Orange County, Beverly Hills, Potomac, you know, so on and so forth, it does feel pretty good. And I feel like, in my opinion, Kyle rises to this occasion. Like, this is where she belongs. I feel like she almost doesn't belong with the Beverly Hills cast. Like, they don't really mesh with what she's trying to do. And again, I have to, you know, yield and accept that she is a powerful woman in the business. You know, do I think she's earned a lot of it? I think she plays a little, oh, woe is me, I had no idea the success would just fall in my lap. And it's like, okay. Even when she made the comment, she's like, we did reality TV all these years ago. We didn't even know what we were doing. Mind you, Beverly Hills was after Orange County success, New York success, Atlanta, New Jersey, and it wasn't like Kyle hadn't already done Paris Hilton, for one being her niece. Paris Hilton had a show that Kyle was in. So Kyle always playing very, oh, what was me? I had no idea. It's something that I, as a fan, also who cares what I think, but I, as a fan, have never really truly appreciated, because it's like, okay, you have the power, and just be that. You don't have to like sell another story. A lot of these cast members, like Bethany on New York years ago, they sell a certain story, and it just takes away from me. But anyways, who am I? My judgment doesn't necessarily count. We're just going to talk about what our initial reactions are of the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, celebrating the 20 seasons, and who's the star, and just a couple little things throughout the show that have been fun to watch. Because at the end of the day, people have moved on from reality TV. Social media sort of has taken over, but reality TV is still, in some ways, a little bit of a special gift. Going back to that, though, who am I? I would say pop culture extraordinaire, pop culture connoisseur, reality TV expert, and of course, radio guy. I've worked in radio for so long. RandomlyRJR.com if you want to go support more. RandomlyRJR.com. And of course, if you want to support the Patreon, it is patreon.com/RandomlyRJR. Getting to the question at hand, I gotta say, when I say who's the star of the show, I'm saying who drives the most in terms of there's never a dull moment when they're around. I have got to say, season 1 of her show, Gizelle Bryant, I was always like, now that cast member is a bit of a star. Even when she started the show, you were like, oh, it's like Tammy Roman, Evelyn Lozada, all in one package. Gizelle Bryant, you know, those gals are from Basketball Wives. Evelyn Lozada, I, of course, interviewed. And I actually also interviewed Gizelle. And Gizelle, if you have the right kind of confidence, she does not rub off the wrong way. If you have a different set of confidence and you're like, she was mean to me, then maybe she will be more brash and more bold and more less of a warm character. But to me, Gizelle, it was like hitting home runs. It was like a pickleball back and forth, ping pong, you know, when we did the interview, because she was so fun, you know. And I've always been intrigued that she always got a hard time. She never wasted her time going to social media, clearing things up. And she wasn't always perfect, but she is present. And it's, to me, I would say, if it isn't Kyle as the star of the show this season, it is definitely Gizelle, because Gizelle makes moments. Luann, though, I didn't even mention Luann a bit ago. Luann, I'll always like Luann. The overall Luann season 1 of New York to Luann even going to Crappy Lake with Sonia Morgan, and Luann before Cabaret, Luann as the Countess. There's like the 9 lives of Luann, one of the most interesting characters of the show. Let's go back before we go through everyone. I'll say Porsha, my reaction to Porsha. Porsha, I was always more of a Kenya Moore fan for sure than Porsha, but Porsha has definitely, over the last couple of seasons, I don't know if it was the divorce settlement or that she's dipping into the lady pond, but she is having what you call a good time, and the glow up is nice. Her nails are no longer necessary, and that was funny. Porsha, to me, why I like watching her on TV now is, and it's even like a knock at yourself, I sometimes, a Virgo, as a Virgo, I'm wound tight. I'm very so particular and always thinking of everything. And sometimes you really do have to have a chill pill and let it go. And Porsha teaching the other gals how to twerk, I think it was fun. It was funny. You know, people will have different opinions on what reality TV looks like now. But at the end of the day, you got to think about it like this. It's easy to have an opinion now because everyone could more so live their own version of a show. You know, you take to social media, you cut a little reel, and suddenly you get a big reaction. But the cast members here, for what it was, you know, were selected. They were, the most entertaining, going up to different board meetings and Bravo executives, like, we're going to put our money behind this type of person. So they are actually vibrant people. And though everyone could do their version of it, it's a higher level of a skill set that's, okay, it's just reality TV, but it is still being compelling. That's, I guess, what I say about it. Compelling is compelling is compelling is compelling. And I know that that's changed over the years, but I feel like Porsha is just, no matter, Porsha could be working at the Piggly Wiggly grocery store and she would be the most exciting person in the store. Some people just have that. Lisa, I think, is good, but Lisa, like Vicki, and I can't believe this, because I can understand why Vicki isn't really packing a punch just yet. She's been off the show for a while. The other gals have like momentum. They've been doing the show over and over. And when you kind of come off the show and get brought back, and this was before she started filming with Orange County, I could totally see you being a little not bashful, but like this weird expectation. You have to fulfill the whoop it up Vicki. You have to fulfill that, but like you don't want your jokes to be stale. She's also a little older, and also when she did her show, reality TV was so different. Thinking about like when she came in to sort of the unknown. Yes, reality TV was around, but still the unknown of what the show would be. To when Porsha comes in, and after 1 or 2 seasons, she could make it a brand like that. It was like kind of a different thing in that way. So I think Vicki sort of has to, kind of jump in there, and she's taking a moment to kind of find that. But actually what I was saying, Lisa, I'm surprised. Lisa is so, when Lisa does Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, she's so fun because she's like, I live a much different life than the rest of you. And she says that with her cast, but now she's with the All-Stars. And I feel like she still believes it, but in my opinion, now we have several episodes to watch, but I feel like she is better in the confessionals than she is with the group. Gizelle, most entertaining in the group. Kyle, I usually will never say most entertaining, but there is something that is so warm about Kyle in this group. I feel like certain people are different. Lisa does better with her cast because in her mind, she is up here and the rest of you are down here. Obviously, that's a Kelly, Ben Simone, Bethany reference. And Lisa basks in Salt Lake City. She really does. And she'll probably be great in this Ultimate Girls Trip as we watch the whole season. But off initial reactions, I feel like she's closest to Vicki, where they're just they're a little shy when it comes to having that big moment, whereas Gizelle's like, okay, I want to talk to everybody. What was everyone's biggest moment? What are you known for? Okay, what do you think about this? Oh, wait, you said that. Like, Gizelle's mind, and she's a Virgo too, by the way. Gizelle's mind, I'm telling you, my Gizelle interview, one of the best ever. I'm surprised it doesn't have 1 million views, which would be great because then I'd be more financially sound, monetization-wise. But I mean, audiences want to do what audiences want to do. But Gizelle is just so present, and I've always loved Gizelle, even when she's taken a beating for the type of personality she lets off on camera. One thing that you could say about Gizelle, what makes her more authentic than a lot of the cast members, is she does not waste time correcting anything. What she does is like what you see is what you get. She doesn't run to go do an interview or a podcast interview and correct this and say, oh, the editing this, which could be the case too. But she doesn't, I think she realizes I will spend no time but the time filming. I get paid to film the show. She doesn't, like other cast members, they'll get eaten up on a season and they'll spend like a tour practically, telling whoever will listen, well, it actually happened like this and what you don't know and da-da-da, which all could be true to a degree, but at some point Gizelle's like, I don't get paid for any of that. I get paid for the show. So I think she's really like, I'm going to collect this money and I'm going to take it to as far as it can go. And it's refreshing if you've been a Gizelle Bryant fan because she's always had such a critique on Potomac, but she's always been the driving force of the show, I think. Not that the other cast members aren't great. I love Potomac. I've been such a Potomac fan because Potomac started after Miami. I was a heavy Miami fan and I was so upset to see it go. I watched season 1, fell in love with Larsa season 1. She did not come back. Season 2 was the best Miami season, if not one of the best Real Housewives shows of all time. Season 3, because Adriana was in the forefront, should have been Joanna, should have been anyone but Adriana. The show significantly fell. And when it came back, everything was in alignment. So I'm so surprised that A, Miami is on a pause, but B, there's no one representing in the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip in the Miami franchise. It should be, in my opinion, Larsa, but it could also be Marisol. It could also be Gertie. It could also be Alexia. Like, this is one of the strongest cast, and yet they don't even get to be included in this. I mean, that to me is like, I just have one question, and it's why? Why is Miami not a part of the Ultimate Girls Trip? I just don't understand. I will say one thing that is fun about the show and also could be a little too much. The part that I like that is fun is bringing back, we get to see Gina, we get to see Joe, I remember seeing Joe on a red carpet 155 years ago, and I didn't even know who Joe was at the time. But like Joe is the originator, as with Gina. Gina and Joe were really the originators, which by the way, Gina said that. Gina was like, oh yeah, the show was really about me. And if you remember season 1, Vicki was part of it, but she was in the corner. She wasn't like the main focal point. She just outlasted everybody and became what is affectionately now known as the OG of the OC. But Gina saying that makes me think Gina has love for Vicki, but also knows that, you know, not saying Vicki should be lucky, but like Gina was really, Gina Keogh was the star focal point of that original season. They were following her story for sure. Also there, Heather, Tamra. So you have, the Quiet Woman, Shannon Storms Bedore. You have all these Real Housewives of Orange County cast members all together as the show itself is going to go from city to city to city to city, ending at Dorinda's Bluestone Manor. I think what I liked about it was you were getting all these flashback moments. You were getting the family van. How dare I gotta be in a family van with this many people? And all these callbacks. Some interesting ones with Gretchen and Slade, which is Joe's ex. I mean, all of it. It's good, and I don't think it's redundant, no. But what I think it's happening for me, my sake, personally, the edits are so poppy. They're so fast. Boom, 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 boom. And I know that a lot of times when shows get put together these days, it's like you got to compete with like scrolling and social media. But this is television, so it is a little different. So to me, I felt like, remember when Kyle had the moment on the show where she goes, these OC women are just, everyone is screaming. And it was so fast. And I know that was an editing choice, but I felt like a little, not dizzy, but like a little dizzy. It was just too much, too fast. So I hope that going to Beverly Hills as the show goes on, Kyle will bring it to an upscale manner. You know, it's funny. Some of the cast members I've never liked, I give so much more respect in this scenario. Kyle has never been anyone. Go back to I have 1,500 episodes. Beverly Hills, I've always been like, Kyle, you know, but there's something different about this. And even so, Teresa, I've always been more of a Melissa super fan than a Teresa super fan. And there's just like this thing where if Teresa, say what you want to say, it's a silly thing, and she flips a table, which she didn't flip it, she nudged it, but nonetheless, if you don't have success on that first season, you don't get a second and third, fourth, fifth. And I've found that, like, though, even going to Atlanta, I've always been more of a Candy, She by Sheree, Kenya Moore, Phaedra fan, and Nene, she did succeed in a lot of ways, but she took, it would be like a basketball player. Like you take 9,000 shots, you're gonna hit a couple 3-pointers, yes. And so Nene, like, she always took a shot, and so she had some epic moments. I said what I said, which there's nothing better than that. But I've always felt like Nene was not always as funny as the reaction she got, and she became the star of the show. So even so, I've not been as big of a fan of hers. There was, in my opinion, something so warm and so fitting about Nene getting together with Porsha and sort of Porsha announcing like what this show is going to be and how they're going to go to all the cities and who's involved, and Nene coming back felt good. And this is like such an easy sentence to say if you've been a Nene fan forever. You're like, Nene back with Bravo, this is big. But it's even bigger for somebody like me who was never really a Nene fan, saying this was big. She looked wonderful. Her fashion sense was on point. Like it made the show fun. And again, it is so easy nowadays for the critiques to be like, who cares? And they're all, what are they, the Real Housewives? What a silly show, and their bad behavior. Because I think people are forgetting that back in the day when OC started, you were still, for what it was, you were still selected. And it reminds me of like my radio career too. Like all the things I did in radio before, sort of got diminished because it now seems like, oh, well, I can flip on my phone and I can say this or that today, tomorrow. And it's like, but it is also different. You know, when I did Fuse TV, IFB monitor, live teleprompter, you know, name, and this had happened. Name was right there at the, because our studio was across the street from Madison Square Garden and the company was working with Fuse at the time. So my name was right there in the Madison Square Garden marquee. Like, these things are so different, and sometimes, like, when the landscapes change and now everybody could just, like, you know, do the same thing, they sort of go back, and I'm using an example for Housewives, they go back to watching Housewives and feel like, oh, it's so boring, it's so uninteresting now, because, you know, now you could have your own version of it. You could have a group of gals that are in Scottsdale, and you guys could have a fun evening, and, you know, somebody could cut a reel, and you feel like you're exactly the same, and nothing's wrong with that, but also there's been a little difference in the viewing of, like, how, oh God, what a silly TV show. But again, it is still a TV show. There's still ads being made. There's still executives getting paid a whole lot, and there's still a job to be done. So while it looks like it's easy, I don't know that I think it's easy. And Lisa talked about that a little bit, because Vicki talked about, you know, now this is the part that's more, it is challenging, but it's also an interpersonal thing to deal with, I guess. And that's Vicki saying she had to make some changes physically because of stuff that was said on the show about her physical appearance. Now, while I'm not going to be in the space of judging all of that, and I don't really know Vicki's story too much, I've watched a lot of Orange County, but not all of it. Like, I've watched all of New York. I've watched all of Potomac. I've watched all of Jersey. I've watched all of Miami, right? Salt Lake City, Dubai. I don't know Vicki too much. I love her podcast. Yes, I do. But I just feel like it's just so easy to judge, is all I'm saying. And Lisa made a great point, like the way she kind of laid into the camera in her confessional, because it feels so easy nowadays to just have such a bold and brazen standpoint, which is fine, and each to each their own. That is your prerogative for sure. But to have this, like, oh, it'll just rub off. I think there should be a little bit of, like, you know, like, you got to have that mindset of, like, am I doing anything valuable? You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to have a scathing hot take, but it's another thing to break down, like, was that good? Like, was I really entertaining? You know, I flipped up the phone and did a vertical reel, and it went so out of control, viral, and I let Vicki know. Like, I just think there's a different thing. If someone has bad behavior and you're judging their bad behavior, yeah, get your commentary off, no problem. But if you're just, like, in this space of making fun so deeply, I see it a little differently. And again, what I really see differently is that 20 seasons of anything, consistency of anything is, I understand this show is not a scholastic show. You don't learn anything, but there is some fun to it, and there's some warmth to it. And I was just watching a show, and it got a season 2. I was so happy about this 5-star weekend with Jennifer Gardner. Outside of that, there's not a lot of shows that really profile women of a certain age having fun on the show. And yes, drama has to be within reality TV, but if Vicki's not on this show, we might not see, in terms of a scripted show, someone who looks like Vicki of that age. You know, somebody who's talking about some of the most real things she's talked about on the show. She talks about feeling a bit insecure about aging, and, you know, when the end is near. Like, these are, you want to say what you want to say about it, for the judgment of reality TV, which I could totally understand the judgment of reality TV, but, like, that's some of the most authentic conversations anyone could have. And to have it, you know, you're going to have it from somebody who is of that certain age. Some of these cast members, you know, Lisa, of course, is still married, but a lot of them, went through divorce on camera. A lot of them have just been through so many different dynamics. Teresa, probably the biggest, because she, of course, had some legal stuff. And I don't like when the show goes into the legal stuff, but what I think is special about this particular show is that they are really in a space of overcoming a lot of stuff. So anyways, those were just a couple of thoughts. I hope my brain wasn't a little scattered, but I think Real Housewives of The Ultimate Girls Trip, the Real Housewife 20th season, 20th, version of this, celebrating 20 seasons, I think is good. Andy Cohen has, for what it is, has done something very interesting with this show, and I don't know that it'll go 20 more seasons. I think things do change, but I would love to see a lot of these cast members continue on, just like I would like to see my career continue on. And again, I reminded you, patreon.com/randomlyRonnie Jr. That is a way to help out everything. There is over 1,500 episodes, so go check them out. And in the comments, of course, like, comment, subscribe, but also let me know what you think, initial reactions of Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip. I think it was pretty good.